Hey guys, it's me, Rich. You have been told for years that illegal immigration has nothing to do with why you can't afford a home. Well, get ready because a brand new Federal Reserve study just put that claim to the test. And the numbers are not pretty. Home prices up, rents up, and a wave of unauthorized workers that the Fed itself calls an unprecedented boom. So, which side of the argument is right? Stick around because we're breaking down what this study actually says, not what the headlines want you to believe. Let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back to RPW Media, where we are MAGA first, conservative second, and Republican third, with the goal of bringing you the most honest news coverage of the day. Look, if you're new, like, subscribe, and comment. And thank you. All right. For years, the conversation about illegal immigration and housing has gone something like this. The Republicans say that the border crisis is driving up the cost of a place to live. Democrats, they shake their heads at that and say, it's just a bunch of nonsense and that immigration is actually good for the economy. Both sides yell past each other, but nobody ever comes out with the goods. Well, guess what? That changed this month. Economists at the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas just released a working paper that does something almost nobody in Washington bothers to do anymore. It matched immigration court records with federal data to figure out what actually happened to jobs, wages, home prices, and rent during the historic surge in illegal immigration between 2021 and 2024, otherwise known as the warm diarrhea brains Biden years. And here is where it gets interesting, because the results are pretty striking. Now, before you get too excited either way, the researchers slapped a disclaimer on this thing. It is an early draft, still circulating for feedback, and it does not represent the official position of the Dallas Fed or the Federal Reserve System. Translation, they know this paper is a political hand grenade, and they want plausible deniability before the cable news chyrons start. Now, let's start with the part that the Democrats want you to focus on. I guarantee you that the cable news nuts are going to be pointing to this and forgetting about everything else. The study found that as unauthorized workers increased by 1% relative to the local labor force, total employment rose by roughly 1% as well. And get this, the researchers found no real evidence yet that wages went down because of it. So if your argument is immigrants steal jobs and crush wages, this paper does not exactly back you up. But that might be, and they may find this out as the study goes on, that many of them didn't work. The Biden administration put them up in expensive hotels and fed them every single day. They got Biden phones, nice sized checks to purchase anything that they needed. Why would they have to get a job? Maybe they will add this logic into the paper as it moves along and their study discovers it. But hold on, because the housing numbers tell a completely different story. That same 1% increase in unauthorized workers, illegal aliens, was linked to the 2.2% jump in home prices and a 1.4% jump in rents. Builders, according to the Fed's own researchers, did not come close to keeping up with the extra demand. In plain English, more people needed somewhere to live in such a short span of time, and the supply of homes did not grow fast enough to absorb them. Now, the paper calls this a housing demand shock, and in markets that were already tight, that shock hit pretty hard. Now, let's talk about scale, because the numbers here are not small. The Dallas Fed economists estimate that unauthorized immigrant workers accounted for about 30% of employment growth in the average metro area between March 2021 and March 2024. That same group accounted for close to 30% of the increase in home prices and roughly 20% of the growth in rent. Nearly a third of the run-up in home prices in an average American city tied to a policy decision made in Washington, D.C. by the Biden administration. And where did all those workers come from? Well, the paper leans on Congressional Budget Office estimates showing that net unauthorized immigration, illegal aliens, added about 7 million people to the country's population before the pace finally slowed in the middle of 2024. Now, I think they're very conservative with 7 million people. Okay, they're saying it's not a rounding error. That's enough. No, I think it was upwards to 20 million. It could be 15 to 20 million. That is bigger than the population of Arizona, and it landed almost entirely in a 3-year window. The researchers themselves describe those years as an unprecedented boom in illegal immigration. It's their words, not mine. Now, here's the part that fact checkers will try to spin. The paper does not claim illegal immigration is the only reason house prices went up everywhere. The authors are upfront with their conclusions and say that they apply to the average metro area in the study, not every zip code in America. That makes sense. Interest rates, construction costs, and local zoning all play a role too. Nobody serious is claiming that this is the single cause of the housing crisis, but it is a cause, and it's a big cause. A measurable, quantifiable, nearly 1/3 of the increase kind of cause. And for years, anyone who said that out loud got called a xenophobe on national television. Oh, you're a racist against brown people, as if any white people didn't try to sneak across the border. We know they did. So here is the bigger question that this paper raises. And it is one nobody in this debate wants to answer honestly. If you flood local housing markets with millions of new residents faster than builders can put up new homes, what did you think was going to happen to the price of a house? This is not complicated. This is basic supply and demand, the kind of thing you learn in high school economics class, not a PhD program at the Dallas Fed. And yet, for the entire Biden administration, anyone who raised this exact point was told that they were exaggerating, that it was worse than exaggeration, that they were bigoted for connecting immigration policy to housing affordability. This is what the libnuts always say to get you to shut up. But you know what? MAGA people don't shut up. Now, the Fed's own economists, hardly a bastion of MAGA Republicans, believe me, are putting numbers behind the argument conservatives have been making since 2021. Will this paper end the immigration debate? Of course not. Nothing ends this debate, but it does something almost as valuable. It gives everyone, Republicans, renters, homeowners, an actual data point to argue over instead of just vibes and talking points. So the evidence now shows that the immigration surge under the Biden administration had a real measurable effect on the cost of housing in America, roughly accounting for close to 1/3 of the increase in home prices in the average metro area. This is not a conspiracy theory, guys. This is not Fox News spin. That is the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. Now, for the bright side, data like this is exactly what a healthy democracy needs. Instead of shouting machines, we need to have a real study that both sides can debate using facts instead of feelings. And if policymakers actually pay attention to it, well, then that means better decisions ahead on both border security and housing supply, which is good news for anyone hoping to afford a home someday. But still, remember, vote red, because look what the blue did to us. All right, so remember, we do live streams every Friday night at 6 o'clock Eastern, where we go over at least 50 stories that were from the week that we just didn't have time to get to. So tell me what you think about this in the comments below. Love hearing from you guys. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
I got saved.